Hi, it's Susan from Worldpeacefull, and today I'm going to talk about bullying. I felt very inspired as I've been investigating power over and power within. But before I go into this, I think I'll meditate because I always like to go still. That's all meditation is stilling the mind. It's allowing a greater intelligence of which we're all a part to guide whatever we say. We're all doing it all the time, not just me. I just do it consciously. Okay. Breathing in, peace. Breathing out, tension. Breathing in, love. Breathing in, joy. Breathing in, truth. Breathing in, clarity. First thing I think of is negative. This is in relation to bullying. It's very negative. I just see in my mind positive ions, interestingly enough. So the electrons, positive, negative, neutral, protons, neutrons. Electrons. So what I'm getting is homeostasis and balance, obviously, in the cellular level. I'm probably just going to keep closing my eyes as I go through this process because I just like the stillness. The universe is balanced. Where focus goes, energy flows. We, with free will, have the choice to think in a positive thought or a negative thought. We're also influenced by others' thoughts. So if you're raised in a group that are very negative, you're just going to think negatively naturally. That's going to be not your normal. So role play, role modeling, behavior. There's personality types. People are born into this world who are very insecure on arrival. Some babies cry more than other babies. There seems to be a sort of a baggage that they're carrying. And depending on the environment they come into, that can be enhanced or minimized. Obviously, a loving environment is going to help a child to love themselves more. If they keep getting reflections that they're not good enough, not worthy, that the parent is not present with them, doesn't spend time with them, and this is not working together, this is actually presence, this is really being with someone. We see a lot of taunting in childhood, where one child picks on another. In the early childhood areas, they can whack each other and carry on, but there's not usually vendettas as far as I could see when I was working with the kids. Although patterns could arise. Much will depend on how adults respond to children's behaviour. Guidance is the best way to deal with emerging bullying. You guide them into behaviours that you reward them with, that are positive and proactive. Problem solving, getting them to think through what they're feeling, to feel through what they're feeling, to think through what they're doing. So the thinking is a doing, the feeling is the emotional landscape that they need to become aware of, and that's how we hardwire the neural networks in the brain for pro-peace, pro-social skills. Has to be done in early childhood. Otherwise, there's a lot of repatterning that has to happen as adults. And there's a lot more work in changing the patterns when you're an adult. You'd have to have someone reminding you that this behaviour is inappropriate. That's why we need training, not only in workplaces but in the community as well. So people can learn how to manage their bullying behaviour if they're bullying. And for those who are being bullied, to manage how they're seen, how they project, how they move, because people get attracted to people they perceive as weak. Now, this is going to be the heart of this discussion, is what we perceive as strong and weak. So I just want to go still on that a bit. Yeah, okay. Immediately what I see is death. Animals dying was what I saw. The weak die, the strong survive was definitely the vibration I got. There's inherent within our DNA the fear of our own vulnerability, the fear of mortality. Very deep, hardwired fear, probably primordial fear that's come down through the generations, I would say. It's beneath the level of consciousness. It's just instinctive reaction to protect, for example, is one of those as well, where we quickly jump in front of someone to save their life. It could be a family member or a friend or a stranger, such as the automatic reaction to someone in danger. So we have a very strong protective instinct. Mothers do, fathers do. It's not just the male that's protective. Women are extremely protective over their children. So we can't really say that protective instinct, because it's been put to me that there's a protective instinct in men, for example, but I think that's nurture, not nature. It's natural in nature for both to, I was going to say gender, but it's sex, both sexes, to instantly protect. That's part of our biology. So attack is the opposite of that. Why do we attack? Frightened. So attacking, physically attacking, emotionally attacking. These are all coming from fear, definitely fear. So all violence is fear-based. It's not love-based. It's frightened. Unfortunately, what we've done is we've couched it in terms of power and strength, which is why bullying is on very deep level normalised. It's normalised in our society. We've called it hierarchy. We've called it patriarchy as well, where it's been normalised into the structure of the society that it's okay to bully if you are a boss, if you are a father. Because even the feminist type narratives have not been here that long. I'm imagining the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I know within my grandmother's generation, there were pioneers in women doing what men did hundreds of years ago. That's how held back females have been. So whenever you hear narratives that stipulate, oh, well, you're all, catching up. We've only just, I'm just trying to find the right words, permeated the cell membrane came to my mind. Are we going through a permeated membrane? Is that permeation expanding so we can move through it? This is communication through cells from one cell to another, goes through the cell membrane. So that metaphor of permeating the cell membrane is really about, is the communication getting through to the whole body of humanity? The moment, and prior to this moment, the messages are not getting through. Hence why we have, I hesitate to say, it's interesting. I'm just going to say what I feel. That word of God is a patriarchal figure. That's because the messages haven't got through in respect of the feminine, the female. And until that does, the body of humanity is orientated towards one gender, even though the other gender is the majority of the species on the planet. Weak and strong, weak and strong, strong and weak. What is weak? What is strong? What is weak? Okay. Often when we feel we want to cry or we get sad, it's often seen like we are weakening. Weakening is not the right word. I'm just going to feel that. I feel tiredness. So we get tired. That's why we feel weakened. We don't have the energy. So that weakening is really just energy is depleted. That's what it really is, if we put it into real language. I'm going to drink some water. Our energy, we feel more vulnerable because the energy's dropped. It's vulnerability. That's why we think when emotions are displayed and expressed, it's a weakness. We feel more vulnerable only because of the psychological belief systems that suggest that emotions are of the feminine and therefore weak. Coming back full circle to the bullying issue, the gentle ones are often the ones targeted because they don't seem like they can defend themselves, and the ones who are doing it don't respect that expression. They don't respect the displaying of that emotion because deep within their own conditioning they've been told that it's weakness. And not unlike the animal that's injured, there is in some a belief that's been inculcated into their very deep subconscious that the weak are vulnerable. We often talk about, the defenders of the weak, those who can't defend themselves. Well, that's not necessarily true. They may not use weapons, though, but we believe that weapons are a better defense because obviously logic would say that if somebody's carrying a weapon, they can shoot you. You're vulnerable if you can't shoot back. Is that true? I personally don't subscribe to that viewpoint at all. I see those bullying in fear very fearful. So they have a lot of armour. They feel vulnerable to attack. So they become used to being aggressive in order to keep away those who could harm them. So they're in a negative mindset that believes they could be hurt. So this would be a defense mindset. This is always in preparation for war. And that can be brought down to the microcosm of a person believing people are out to get them or they don't trust anyone. They need to have an alarm system. That some people will carry a weapon in their car or on their house, a baseball bat, or worse, because they're mindset is negative, it's not that the world is a dangerous place. It's not that in reality, because if you look day to day to day to day, so ahead into the future or in the past, but let's look back first. Did what you fear happen? Or is it through the fear that these things happen? In other words, the law of attraction, as we think about it, we bring about it. What you think about, you bring about. You're the creator of your own destiny in many respects. It's like if I unlock my door, I believe, in my reality, I'm very unlikely to be burgled. People go, how can that be? Someone goes, they see your door's unlocked, they'll come in. Well, prior to the 60s or even the 60s and before, they had their doors open all the time. So the people who are burgling, I guess, these days would be more to do with drugs, I would imagine. In the Western scenario, in other worlds, it could be to do with food even. So, I personally feel to de-escalate these things, you must change the inner environment. I trust I'm safe. That's why I went around the world by myself. I trusted I was safe. I tested the theory. I mean, I did have a few fears, even when I went around Australia with my tent. I can remember feeling a little bit daunted, thinking, what if someone comes into my tent? But then I thought, oh, feel the fear and do it anyway. Don't worry about it. Just go. Let's see retrospectively, did that happen? Some people said to me, oh, you're going to drive alone. What if your car breaks down and you've got no money? And I have very little money. Car didn't break down. Oh, it did. Actually, it did. Had a few car problems twice. Okay, once was both are actually in Western Australia, I believe. I was at a caravan park over the border, and this guy actually, and I think that mechanical work he did, which was really with a what do you call it, the twisties, you put them around your bread. Forgotten what it's called. He used that to hold two mechanical bits together. He threaded it through and I had a look, I looked down. I think a bolt had come out actually, and he'd put that through as a replacement to hold it together, and I never changed it. I did once peer down there and think, where was that again? But I never got it fixed. It's never fallen apart, so it's clearly holding. And that's now, how many years? 7 years ago. Still holding. One day I might check it if I can be bothered. And then there was another incident at another caravan park where I actually had to look for a mechanic in the morning because my car was making a whirring noise. It was still with the fan belt. And it just so happened there was only two people in the caravan park, I think. There were very few. Let's just say they were the only two I was aware of. And one of them was a mechanic. He came and had a look and it fixed itself. So I kind of think him looking at it might have helped. So had I been fearful, insecure, that I could be attacked, a car could break down, I could be out in the middle of nowhere, and Australia is a big place, and I'm talking about going through, the Nullarbor and, down through central Australia. It didn't worry me though for some reason. I had no fear whatsoever. I was excited actually. It was very interesting. I felt very happy, had a feeling of freedom, and that was more important to me at the time. So this energy of bullying, going back to that, is really about powerlessness parading as power. I see that very clearly these days. The most frightened people create a bravado. The ones that are overtly aggressive in bullying tend to have a high masculine, like I see orientations within men and women. Some women are very masculine, they're very capable, they like fixing things. In many respects, probably not that talkative. They can be very logical. They tend to do what the man would have done, Had the man been there? This is single mothers, obviously. Then I've seen the females, and they can be very emotional, very talkative, probably like me. I'm a female. Although I've got masculine as well, because I have that sort of pioneering spirit, I have that ability to overcome fear, whereas other women might feel a bit daunted by what I've done when I went around the world by myself and couch surfed, actually. It was staying in people's houses and trusting that I was fine, even though I didn't speak the language, didn't have much money, had only a little bit if I got stuck. But I trusted my inner feeling, which was to travel the world. I knew I had to. I had a very strong inspiration to do it, so I did it. And I was absolutely thrilled when I came back that I'd overcome my fear. Now, this connects back to the bullying, believe it or not. Everything in life is here to teach us something. That's why I regard everyone as a teacher. You either rise to the challenge or you run away. I'm a great believer in rising to the challenge. Not to defeat people, but to face fear. Because this is how you defeat, in many respects, the energy, I'll call it, of bullying. It's not really about people, it's about energy. It's about perceived vulnerability. It's about imprinted patterns that have been going on for centuries that are unquestioned at this time. It's about making visible things that are not in our best interests, where there is not a win-win for both parties, because a unity-type consciousness, a collectivization of humanity, where we start to work together as one human race, means we have to now resolve all those differences. It doesn't mean becoming the same, not at all. It means embracing diversity. We're not here to be the same. We're here to find harmony with that diversity. This is the peace work that I feel inspired towards. The bullying is just another way of dividing, and we see it not only in schools, in families, in societies, got gangs, even in authority figures. We see it even between organisations. They call it business, but it can often be designed along military lines. They do flank attacks. I've done marketing strategy, counter-attacks, full-on frontals. I laugh at the military language of business, where men are still playing war games, but they do it now through business, not in physical combat. I'm seeing it in law courts. That has been a real revelation to me, even though I've heard about the toxic nature of conflict in courts. I've now come to understand that it really is about fighting, which has always been very strange to me. I find it strange that we want to even fight. But I guess it becomes less strange when you know it's about power. People think that they are somehow enhanced by a win, and someone's been defeated, they're the loser. So we've got this winning-losing mentality, but this has largely come from, I think, religion. The right versus wrong comes from religion. That's where that comes from. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm the faithful, you're not. I'm the in-group, you're not. Morality, premised, it's beliefs on the basis of right and wrong. Whereas the emerging consciousness we're seeing happening today is really going about what's serving you and what is not. Does it serve you to engage in bullying? Well, no, it will come back on you through cause and effect. One way or another, the universe rearranges. Whatever you put out comes back, and it is a truism, whether you believe me or not. It comes back one way or another. That's just natural law, actually. That's how I understand it. So I'm very mindful of how I treat people. I'm very mindful of my intentions, because I don't wish to harm anyone. I know that it comes back, and it hurts me because I don't want to. If I feel I hurt someone, I would feel hurt. I would find I might carry guilt, or I might regret it at some point. So I won't do it because I see myself in them. How would I feel if I was that other person? Would I want them to suffer? And my answer will always be no. I don't believe in revenge. I think that that's tit for tat. I've seen people do it, and it's a very immature response. Revenge gets you nowhere. It only ends up hurting you because we're all one. And when I say that, I'm saying energetically we're all connected. And I'll give a quick example. You come into a room, you can feel the energy of the people in the room. They're either happy, sad. You might notice one particular person. It's to do with energy. We're all interconnected. You might think of someone, they ring you. That's an example of receiving the thought that they're going to ring you. You actually tuned into them. These things are not that out there. If you give it reflection, you know, I've had discussions today about issues of misogyny, what that means, because I see that in the same context as bullying. It's the same sort of energy of power over, not power within. Power within is virtues. I feel compassion, I feel love, I feel humility, I feel peace. This is the innate power. Now, when we get power over people, it's because there's something we're lacking, we're feeling we're lacking something. So we're seeking it consciously or unconsciously in some other person or some other situation, or maybe some sort of career or whatever it is. You're seeking the power because you feel incomplete. That's how you know you're in a state of seeking power. You feel empty. Something's not right. But when you act out a behavior, you feel somehow empowered. Now, there's a false empowerment and there's a real empowerment. The false power that people could feel is when they've bullied someone and they've cowered. They could be also in a management role where it's normalized and they see people jumping to attention. They walk through the room, they feel a sense of inflated importance because others give it to them. Others have been trained to give their power to that person because that person's got the power. I remember in Bangkok, actually, when I was a Rotary Peace Fellow, I did some work with other Rotary Peace Fellows where we went to the American School of Bangkok. And together we collaborated on a peace education program, which we delivered to teenagers in that school. And they're all from all multicultural backgrounds. And I did an activity with the kids, which was called Power Grab. And what you do is you put newspapers out on the floor and you get the kids in groups of 5 surrounding the newspaper. So they're in clusters all around the floor. And I had a microphone, and what I did is I said to the kids, now I want you to grab for power. And I wrote power on those newspapers. So I go 3, 2, 1, grab for power. And they all grab and rip it. You know, it's really interesting because some people grab all of the power. They do it really fast because they're competitive. You know, let's grab for power. Let's get it quick now. Other kids had little tiny pieces. There's my piece of power. Some got none. They weren't fast enough. You know, others completely ripped it to smithereens. And then I interviewed the children and I asked them, what did you feel when you grabbed for power? What happened? Oh, such and such was really fast, got it first. Or I felt really great when I got all the paper. Others said, I felt mean because I took too much. It was really interesting, and you saw their values playing out in the way they described their experience of grabbing for power. And that's what we do to sort of raise the awareness in children of the fact that we're all grabbing for power one way or another. And, of course, bullying and sexism and any sorts of discriminations, really, whether you are discriminating against a race, whether it's educational discrimination, gender-based, whatever it is, marriage, what you think is appropriate, what's not. All these isms are all ultimately to do with power. And the work of empowerment is to say that you're already complete, that it's not a question of looking upon another as inferior. Now I've been reading some interesting thoughts today where a former opposition leader, should I say, I had to laugh, was saying that he believed along the lines that, women, there was biological, physiological differences, and that men were good at, power and control sort of thing, like governance in positions of power. What's to do with that? And I laughed. I've had a bit of laughter around all these things because I find it really funny. I actually grew up with a really strong sense of equality. I've never actually seen myself as unequal. I still don't. I mightn't have the same amount of money as someone else, but I still don't see myself as unequal or a failure. Not at all. Because I'm doing exactly what I've chosen. I'm a success at living the way I'm living. I'm amazed at how I've survived with no income. I still have a house around me and I've got plenty of food. I think there's a miracle in that. Just depends on what you choose to evaluate better than or less than. For me, these are strange concepts because I've been a clown and I've moved through society and I've seen everybody's equal. I've moved around the world and felt the same way. The only thing I've noticed is whether they're smiling or not. And that's the only thing that mattered. And for me, that's my, if you like, insight into gross national happiness. However, we're in a world that is still evaluating everybody on the basis of socioeconomic level, what job they do, whether if it's working class or blue collar workers, they think they're less than someone who's an accountant because those people make more money. So we then evaluate on the basis of I make more money, which is only plastic. That's really, you will utilise that plastic when you want to buy something from a retail outlet, or you will use a plastic card, which they call a credit card. Ultimately, it's digital reality numbers that you've got or you've not got. But we, unfortunately, through an economic paradigm, have accorded value to those who have performed certain tasks over others that have performed other tasks. And there have been lots of discriminations that have decided what's worth something and what's not. We're also encased within I definitely would say a patriarchal type paradigm at this time, which has typically valued initially those sort of mechanical engineering type roles, and then as society became more service orientated, it then moved into managerialism and accounting, finance, consultancy, things like that. These service orientated intellectual roles were of considerable value compared to manual tasks of cleaning or looking after the elderly, service-related sort of jobs that were more accorded. The feminine nurturing was seen as less. And these are definite distortions. You talk to anybody who's worked in a nursing home, they work incredibly hard and their job is incredibly challenging as they try and physically help people and also emotionally assist them. There's a lot of skills in that, but they're not valued, paid the bare minimum. And yet they're dog-tired when they come home from work. And then you might get someone at the top of a company who's not physically doing as much work, has got delegation skills. Others are doing the work. This one is strategically thinking, having lunches, networking, sales. On it goes. Has a pretty, in some cases, pretty good life. Some of them work hard, but for the most part, I've seen a lot of people work hard. And that issue of equality then comes into that. But equality can only really manifest once we drop all these beliefs that distort society, that create these class mechanisms or status mechanisms which value one over the other, which is not true. People are of equal value. And of course, the bullying scenario tends to lend itself to, perceptions of superiority or the need to feel superior over someone else who is put down in some way in order for that other to feel an inflated sense of ego or identity. or power. It's all sort of the same thing. And the one put down feels even less about their value. They feel powerless to do anything about it. They get desperate. They emotionally would be perceived as weak because they're not able to cope with it. And then mental health assertions arise from those who have no comprehension of how that person's feeling, and on it goes. So those distortions are never true. They're just the way it is right now. That's just the way it is at the moment. In the future, it won't be that way. As we come into a sense of presence with self, which means not distracting yourself with outside things. Presence of self means you tapping into inner power, not seeking power outside yourself. It's not about comparison. Inner power is more about a deep connectedness to all life. I call it the equality tone. That's the inspiration I get around the word equality, is equality tone. It's like a sound that kind of reverberates throughout the ecosystem, the ecosystem. I'm just sensing that tone. It's harmony is what it is. Even the word equality is not right. It's not right. It's the word harmony. So in other words, I can harmonize with someone who's a CEO, but not because I'm saying the words he wants or she wants to hear. My harmony is about myself. So it means I can look upon that other with great love and respect, as I would a homeless person. Same. I'll share you a story. I've said it before in my videos, but I'll say it again. I remember meeting a homeless person. I've met many, but in this occasion, I sat down with this person. I bought him a pen and paper, because I was going to get him to do envisaging his future. I was giving him ideas. And I told him, I've been homeless. Throughout my life, I've been homeless a lot. And I'm not complaining. It's been a really interesting adventure, if anything. At times it's hard, because sometimes there are questions of whether I have enough. But because I have a belief in the unity of life, I'm not feeling afraid. So when I told this young fella that I'd always also been homeless, he suddenly respected me. I really saw it in his eyes. And that was the first moment I realised that the homeless don't respect the people walking past. They look at you like, I don't respect you. It's really interesting. So that notion of respect is really about what you relate to. It's about relatedness. Isn't that interesting? Yet myself as a clown, do I respect people? No, I don't as a clown, because I love everyone. I'm just analysing that as I'm saying it. Respect is more something I would say analytically. I respect you. And I would think it. Yeah, I definitely respect that person. I would think it. But a clowning is a different experience. I would say it's more immediate and it's more natural. So in that natural state of being, respect doesn't even exist, because you're already one with everybody. Respect only exists in a world of not respect, you see. Everything's dyads, everything's opposites. So going back to the equality tone, I just want to sit with that for a sec. It's like a humming. I see it as a blueprint, a grid. It's a life force energy, in actual fact. It's life force. That's the equality tone. It's the life force that runs through everything. Everything is alive, even a rock. Cosmos, universe, multiverse, solar system. It's all alive. And this is the equality tone of the oneness. So going back to harmony, which is a more accurate description than equality, equality gets confused with, are we the same or are we different? Equality, I've heard arguments of impossible to get equal outcomes, only if you use constructs around that. If you talk harmony, which is true equality, harmony resonates and it is more organic, it's more flowing. So it's like when I meet someone, I harmonise with that person. Oh yeah, why do you think that? That's really interesting. Okay, so you like the right wing. You think people are this and people are that. Oh, okay. And you want, okay, artificial intelligence to take over. That's really interesting. Do I feel threatened? No. Do I want them to change? No. So what's the harmony? I accept their right to exist. They are offering a contrast. I cannot know the purpose of that contrast. From one thing comes another. We're all connected. From that philosophy, another one emerges. It's often like what I've said in respect. Everyone talks about dear old Trumpy. God bless old Trump. Trumping the Trumps. I can easily love everyone. Easily. And the reason is because I can see beyond that individual that some other dynamic is formulating. So if I look at those things in the world that are not so good, that we say as bad or as negative or as dangerous, always its countervailing opposite emerges. So from the bullying, equality or human rights or education arises, because we see that people get bullied because they're not educated, or they get bullied because they're impoverished, or they get bullied because they don't know how to assert themselves. So conflict resolution arises. In fact, conflict resolution did arise from bullying from Second World War, in actual fact. Universal Declaration of Human Rights was another. Bill of Rights in the United States came from the lack of rights. So if you see the world as dyads, that means opposites, twos, one reflecting another, don't look at the one reflecting the other, look at the outcome. So I would say if we say inequality has existed on the planet, it's actually caused equality to emerge as people reach for their power of their true self to say, I'm actually equal to you. And I say no to this. That's taking your power back. So where in the past I may have given it away and said, you're right, I'm less than you, I'm really nothing, I'm just this. I'm not very intelligent, I'm really good at that. Not that there's anything wrong with not being intelligent. What's that? Who's to say intelligent is intelligent? What if the highest intelligent was loving kindness? What if intellectual prowess was nothing? What if that was just games we play in order to keep ourselves amused? People go, oh, you can't say that. We're traversing those boundaries of knowledge, are we? I'm just simply saying this is really questioning what is intelligence. If we had another civilisation land on our planet with much greater technology, cleaning up the environment in a flash, moving vehicles, I'm just thinking through gravitational or magnetics, would we think we're intelligent? We might go, well, no, compared to that, we're not. But if we're talking about a single-celled amoeba, we might say we are, but are we? What created the single-cell amoeba? What is the purpose of the single-cell amoeba? We live in a world of separated states of consciousness where we see things in singularities. We see things in separation. We see them and us, him and her, object. We compare it to another object, dark and light, hot and cold. All these opposites oscillating. But the consciousness that is arising on the planet, which will go beyond the bullying issue, is a transcendental type of awareness which sees the whole, sees the outcome. So from these tensions, from these clashes, you get people saying freedom of speech, some people going no freedom of speech, or they might go more extreme and say we can say whatever we want and we don't care. And yes, there is truth in the freedom of that. People will do it. And in their freedom of choice, they make choices. You can never stop anyone from thinking and making a choice about whether they want to direct positive or negative energy on the basis of what they fear or what they love. That's been going on since time immemorial. You can never stop it. Even if you jail someone, they're still thinking. I remember when Falun Gong were thrown into jail, they tried to stop them meditating. They did awful things to them. But when that person closes their eyes, you don't know if they're sleeping or meditating. You cannot control the will of anyone. But we can utilize those contrasts to look at outcomes. What sort of world do we want to create collectively? Do we want a world that focuses on all the negative? Do we want to control things because we're afraid of being out of control? Wouldn't it be wiser to look at the belief system that seeks the control? What is it we want to control, and can we actually do that? Is that possible in a world full of infinite possibilities? The moment you seek to control one, another will seek freedom. Not because they're rebelling, it's because it's a universal law of opposites, cause and effect, I believe the scientists would say. You put out something countervailing comes back. This is how things clash it up in a world of great diversity. It's meant to be that way. So to control is futile in truth. We can greet that difference with understanding if we choose. Go and talk to the other that you see is so different from yourself. Learn. The teachers come in many guises. They might come as children. They might come as your grandparents. They could come as the man on the street who's homeless. That could be your greatest teacher. That could be the wisest man sitting there on the footpath. We don't know the reason people live the lives they live, but I can say to you, we live on, for sure. This is not the end of it. When you die, it's not the end of it. So then that begs the question of who are we whilst we're here, and where do we go from here? I say that we are full of infinite possibilities. Our civilization can transcend the competitive, bullying, regressive mindsets that have been going on for centuries. We can get beyond this if we choose. But you have to awaken sufficiently to become firstly aware that that's what we're doing. We'll hold our own progress back, constantly fighting for things that we're actually creating the absolute demise that we're fearful of. So if we fight for resources, we're actually using them up in that fight. If we're fighting for power and control, we're actually diminishing our own power, our own resources in order to facilitate control that can never be had permanently ever. Things change. Is that cost effective? Is that efficient? What is it that you truly want? Do you want to be happy? Or do you want to be rich? Or do you want to be poor? Do you want to be famous? Why do you want those things? Do you really think it's going to bring to you what you feel you're lacking because you're powerless? What if everything you ever wanted was within you? What if the absolute joy that you think others can bring you could actually bring to yourself? What if you are love and you don't need to go seek it? You just need to simply be it and share it, extend it to the world to demonstrate this is a world that's safe. That's actually the real peace, in the sense that you will never bully anyone, ever. You will never seek to take their power because you already have it. You have your own power. And once that happens, once you start to connect with life in harmony with this equality tone that I feel, you will start to see that life is turning up exactly as it's meant to in order for you to learn what you're here to learn, and that nobody is out to get you. But you may manifest things coming back to you that you've sent out into the world, because it always comes back. Whatever you've done to other people will come back, because it's a law. It's a cause of the law of cause and effect. What we resist persists. What we look at disappears. So whatever we're resisting, it continues. You anchor that problem in place until you've released your resistance, your fear around it. We see this in risk management strategies in organisations where they're so afraid of security breaches. They're so afraid of risks, rather than understanding that the actual fear of that risk brings it to you. It's a universal law. You may not believe me, but you may test it. If you want security, create openness. If you want loyalty, be loyal. If you want to be respected, respect others. In other words, give to the world or the others what it is you're seeking yourself. If you want wealth, give it away. But whatever you choose to do, depending on what your goal and objective is, if you're truly choosing a happy life, then bring yourself back into alignment with integrity. Bring yourself back into alignment with humility. You don't have to be the greatest. You already are great. And what that means is we're great equally. Isn't that interesting? Someone would say that's not true. You can't be great equally. It means the potential within us is enormous. Everyone has it. We all have equal wisdom too. I'm not wiser than you. I'm just tapping into wisdom because I'm allowing myself to experience it. But anyone can do what I do. I'm just simply being an example so others can choose. So to bring about this transformative world that some say they're seeking, you have to transform yourself first. You cannot go out and change the world. You have to change yourself first. That's what I do. I'm working on me. I'm communicating with the world, but I'm working on me. Be the change you wish to see in the world. But be mindful of what it is you're imposing on the world. Is it something that you can live with? Is it something that you can be? So what others are living, could you live it? If we're treating people in certain ways that is negative, how would you feel if you were in their shoes? Would you want that done to you? If your answer is no, then you make a decision to not do it. If you've offended in any way, go to the person and apologise. That rebalances the situation. This is the homeostasis that creates the justice, actually, of the peace. That's the rebalancing of the scales. Don't just cast it to the side and say, oh, well, I'll do it better next time. Make amends in your life to all those people you may have harmed, that you may have bullied, whose power you have taken. Acknowledge these things. That is the making of you. That is the growing up in our world. That is the transcension, the transcending of limited thinking, to then prepare us for the next stage of evolution on this planet, which has within it, or outside of it even, infinite possibilities. But we have to resolve those conflicts first before that vista that we're moving towards becomes visible, because we're so congested with confusion and very limited ways of thinking, that we're not aware that we're actually very, very powerful, each and every one of us. We don't need to bully anyone to get power. We just need to know thyself and be true and genuinely live that. So that's my feeling with this video. As usual, look at me. I find it easy to talk for an hour, but I get so much inspiration, you see. That's why I'm talking for so long. The ideas just keep coming in, as you can probably see. But it's not just me, it's all of us. We all have the capacity to tap into this higher knowledge by being still with an intention for truth. And I can only say it's an intention. I have no idea. It feels right for me. I feel resonance. Someone might watch this and not feel it. That's okay. We all get to choose. That's your universal or cosmic democracy in truth. And freedom of speech is not an either or. We're all going to talk. We're all free to speak. Whether you hear or not, that's up to you. You're free not to hear as well. So much love and peace and joy and harmony. Take care. Bye.